I came home early from Bible study. My husband was in our bedroom with my son-in-law. I heard them through the door, and what I heard made my hands shake so hard I dropped my church purse. The sound of it hitting the hardwood floor, my keys, my reading glasses, those peppermints I always kept for after communion, all of it scattered across the hallway like pieces of my life breaking apart. I'm Evelyn Marie Parker. I'm 62 years old. I've been married for 38 years, and I never thought I'd have to pick up the pieces of my life off the floor of my own hallway. But there I was, on my knees, crawling around trying to gather up what had fallen, while on the other side of that door, my whole world was falling apart in ways I couldn't even begin to understand yet. Let me back up a little. That morning started like any other Thursday. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. Don't need an alarm clock anymore. My body just knows. And I made Raymond his coffee the way he likes it. 2 sugars, splash of cream, in the blue mug his Army battalion gave him when he retired. I kissed his forehead while he was still sleeping, same as I'd done for 38 years, and I went about my morning. I just bought everything I needed to make my sweet potato pie for Sunday dinner. The good yams from the farmer's market, the real vanilla extract, not that imitation mess. I had it all planned out. Nicole and Brandon were supposed to come over after church, and I was going to make Raymond's favorite meal, smothered pork chops, macaroni and cheese with 3 kinds of cheese, green beans with bacon, and my cornbread that people at church always asked me to bring to potlucks. My Honda Accord was sitting quiet in the driveway when I left for Bible study at 2 p.m. Raymond's truck was there too. He'd said he was going fishing with his buddy Marcus, but I guess those plans had changed. I remember thinking it was nice he was getting some rest. He'd been working so hard in the yard lately, building that new garden bed I'd wanted. Bible study was at Sister Margaret's house that Thursday. We were studying the book of Ruth. Oh, the irony of that now. "Whither thou goest, I will go," we read. "Thy people shall be my people." All those promises of loyalty and devotion. I sat there in Sister Margaret's living room, eating her lemon pound cake, discussing faithfulness and commitment, while my own husband was at home proving just how little those words meant to him. Pastor Thompson had to leave early, said his stomach was bothering him. So we wrapped up around 3:15 instead of our usual 4 o'clock. I said goodbye to the sisters, got in my car, and headed home. I should have known something was wrong when I pulled into the driveway. Raymond's truck was still there, but there was another vehicle parked down the street. Brandon's gray Silverado, tucked just out of direct sight from our front window. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Brandon was always coming by to ask Raymond for advice about something or other. "Pops always knows what to do," he'd say with that charming smile that had won over my daughter 8 years ago. The front door was locked from the inside. That should have been my second clue. Raymond never locked the front door during the day. Said it made him feel trapped, some leftover thing from Vietnam that he never liked to talk about. But I just used my key, the one with the little cross keychain Nicole gave me for Mother's Day 5 years back, and I let myself in through the kitchen door instead. The house smelled like Raymond's cologne, Polo Black, the one I bought him for his birthday, but it smelled stronger than usual, like he'd just put it on. And underneath that, there was something else, something I couldn't quite place. Not wrong exactly, but different. The air felt charged somehow, like the pressure drop before a thunderstorm. I set my purse down on the kitchen counter, right next to where Brandon's jacket was draped over one of the chairs. His jacket, folded neat and careful, the way I used to fold Raymond's clothes when I do the laundry. That jacket shouldn't have bothered me, but it did. I heard music coming from upstairs. Not loud, but clear enough. R&B, the kind of smooth, slow music that Raymond used to play for me back when we were young, when his hands didn't have arthritis and my knees didn't ache when it rained. Luther Vandross. Here and Now. That was our song. And then I heard the laughter. Not the kind of laugh you give when something's funny. The kind of laugh that's intimate, private. The kind of laugh that shouldn't be happening in my bedroom in the middle of a Thursday afternoon. I stood at the bottom of the stairs for what felt like hours, but was probably only a minute or two. My hand on the banister, the one Raymond refinished last spring, working every evening for 2 weeks to get it perfect because he knew I loved the original wood grain. My feet wouldn't move. My brain was trying to find an explanation, any explanation that made sense. Maybe Brandon was helping Raymond move furniture. Maybe they were watching something funny on Raymond's phone. Maybe. But then I heard Raymond's voice, low and soft. "Nobody's home till 4 o'clock. We got time." And Brandon's response? "You sure? I don't want Evelyn finding out like this." Finding out like what? That's when I dropped my purse. Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. A woman married 38 years knows when something's wrong. She knows when her husband stops looking at her the way he used to. She knows when the space in bed between them gets wider and colder. She knows when "I love you" starts to sound more like habit than truth. But I was too busy being grateful. Grateful that my daughter found a good man. Or so I thought. Grateful that Raymond finally retired from that body-breaking work at the auto shop and could rest his bones. Grateful for the house we'd paid off, the garden that was finally thriving, the life we'd built brick by brick on Magnolia Street. Grateful for a life that was, it turns out, built on sand. I stood there in that hallway for exactly 7 minutes. I know because I watched the grandfather clock, the one my mama gave us when we got married, the one that's been keeping time through every joy and heartbreak of the last 38 years. I watched it tick away each second. 7 minutes, 420 seconds of my life where everything I thought I knew crumbled into dust. And in those 7 minutes, I made a decision that would change everything. I didn't storm up those stairs. I didn't scream. I didn't bust down that door like some crazy woman on a TV show. I picked up my purse. I walked to the kitchen. I made myself a cup of coffee. Community coffee with chicory. The kind I grew up drinking in Louisiana before I moved to Atlanta. I sat down at the kitchen table, the same table where Raymond and I used to do crossword puzzles on Sunday mornings, and I started planning. Because that's what Evelyn Marie Parker does. I plan. I survive. I endure. My mama used to say, "Baby girl, they can take your dignity, but only if you give it to them. You're a Johnson." That was her maiden name. And we Johnson women don't give nothing away. I sat there sipping my coffee, and I started to remember who I was before I became Mrs. Raymond Parker, before I became Nicole's mama, before I became the woman who made the best sweet potato pie at Greater Hope Baptist Church. I remembered Evelyn Johnson, the girl who integrated Riverside Elementary in 1968, walking past protesters who spit at her while she held her head high. The young woman who worked 2 jobs to put herself through college when her parents couldn't afford it. The teacher who spent 37 years shaping young minds, buying school supplies with her own money because she knew those babies needed more than the system would give them. That Evelyn Johnson was still in here somewhere, and she was about to come back out. My name is Evelyn Marie Johnson Parker, and before I tell you what happened next, you need to know who I am. Not who I became, but who I was built to be. I was born in 1962 in New Orleans, Louisiana, to James and Beulah Johnson. My daddy worked on the docks, loading and unloading cargo ships in heat that could kill a man if he wasn't careful. My mama cleaned houses for white families in the Garden District. Big, beautiful houses with columns and gardens that she could tend but never own. They didn't have much, my parents. But what they had, they gave to me and my older sister Eleanor. They gave us pride. They gave us dignity. They gave us the understanding that we were just as good as anybody else, even if the world was going to try real hard to convince us otherwise. I was 6 years old when Dr. King was killed. I remember my mama crying at the kitchen table, and my daddy holding her, and me not quite understanding why the nice man on TV who talked about dreams wouldn't be talking anymore. But I understood when I got older. I understood when I had to drink from separate water fountains, when I had to go to the colored school, when I had to watch my mama come home exhausted from scrubbing other people's floors. But I also understood something else. I was going to be different. I was going to make them proud. In 1968, when I was in 3rd grade, my parents signed the papers to integrate me into Riverside Elementary. I was one of 5 black children in a school of 400 white kids. I won't lie to you, it was hell. But my mama walked me to that school every single day, her hand tight in mine, her head held high, and she'd whisper, You remember who you are, Evelyn Marie. You're a child of God, and don't nobody get to tell you different. I graduated top of my class, got a scholarship to Spelman College, studied education because I wanted to be for other children what my teachers had been for me, a light in the darkness. That's where I was in my senior year at Spelman when I met Raymond Parker. He was 23. I was 20. He'd just come back from Vietnam, 2 tours, Army mechanic, Purple Heart from some battle he never wanted to talk about. He was working at his uncle's auto repair shop in Atlanta, trying to figure out what life looked like when you weren't dodging bullets and watching your friends die. We met at a church picnic, Greater Hope Baptist, same church I still attend to this day. I was helping my roommate's aunt serve potato salad, and Raymond was sitting alone under a tree, looking like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. Something about him called to me. Maybe it was the sadness in his eyes. Maybe it was the way he sat so straight, military posture even in civilian clothes. Maybe it was just that God whispered in my ear, "That one's yours." I walked over with a plate of food. "You look hungry," I said. He looked up at me, and I swear I saw something shift in his face, like a light turning on in a dark room. "I am," he said. "Been hungry for a long time." We talked for 3 hours under that tree. He told me about Vietnam, about the nightmares, about feeling like he left part of himself in the jungle. I told him about integrating schools, about wanting to teach, about believing that education could change the world, even when the world didn't want to change. When the sun started to set, he asked if he could see me again. "Yes," I said. "You can." 6 months later, he asked me to marry him. We were sitting on the porch of my parents' house in New Orleans. I brought him home to meet them, and my daddy had grilled him for 3 hours about his intentions, his past, his future. Raymond took it all with grace and patience, answering every question honestly, looking my daddy in the eye. After dinner, we sat on that porch swing, listening to the cicadas and the distant sound of jazz from Bourbon Street. Raymond pulled out a small box from his jacket pocket. "Evelyn," he said, "I know I ain't got much. I got a job at the shop that pays enough to get by. I got nightmares that wake me up screaming sometimes. I got a studio apartment with a mattress on the floor and a hot plate for cooking. But I also got love for you that's bigger than anything I ever felt, and I promise you, if you say yes, I will spend every day of my life trying to be worthy of you." Inside that box was a ring, small, simple, a single diamond that probably cost him every penny he'd saved. Later, I found out it cost $147, and he'd been putting away $20 a week for 2 months to buy it. I said yes. We got married 3 months later, in June of 1985, at Greater Hope Baptist. I wore my mama's wedding dress, altered to fit me. Raymond wore a suit from Goodwill that we spent a week finding. We had 50 people there, a potluck reception in the church basement, and a honeymoon that consisted of 2 nights at a motel in Savannah. It was perfect. I need you to understand, I loved this man. I loved him when he woke up screaming from nightmares about mortar fire. I loved him when he drank too much and cried about friends who didn't come home. I loved him when he lost his job and felt like less of a man. I loved him through every high and every low for 38 years. And I thought he loved me back the same way. The first year of our marriage, I dropped out of Spelman. I was 3 months from graduating, but Raymond's PTSD was bad, and somebody needed to work, and somebody needed to take care of him, and I decided that somebody was me. I got a job waiting tables at a Denny's, working breakfast shift 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. Then I'd go to a second job at the hospital, working the overnight shift in the cafeteria, 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. I'd come home, sleep for 3 hours, and do it all again. I did that for 2 years until Raymond got stable enough to work full-time. By then, I was too tired to go back to school. My scholarship was gone, and we had bills to pay. But I didn't give up on teaching. I eventually got my degree through night classes at Georgia State. Took me 6 years, but I did it. And in 1993, at the age of 31, I finally became what I'd always wanted to be, a teacher. I taught 3rd grade at Washington Elementary in East Atlanta for 37 years. I taught black children, white children, Hispanic children, Asian children, babies who needed someone to believe in them the way my teachers believed in me. I bought books with my own money. I stayed late to tutor kids who were falling behind. I went to parent-teacher conferences and told struggling mothers, "Your baby's gonna be fine. I got them. I promise." And I kept that promise. For 37 years, I kept it. Raymond and I had one child, Nicole. She was born in 1990 after 3 miscarriages that nearly broke my heart. When the doctor put her in my arms, I looked at Raymond and saw tears streaming down his face. "We did good, baby," he whispered. "We did real good. Nicole was our whole world." We raised her in this house on Magnolia Street, a modest 3-bedroom we bought in 1988 for $67,000. It ain't fancy, but it's ours. We paid off the mortgage in 2014, 2 years ahead of schedule, because I worked summer school and Raymond took every overtime shift the shop offered. This house has seen everything. Nicole's first steps were taken in that living room. Her prom pictures were taken on that front porch. We hosted Thanksgiving here, Christmas here, Easter Sunday dinners here. These walls held our laughter, our arguments, our making up, our making love, our making a life. And now, sitting in that kitchen, listening to sounds from upstairs that I didn't want to interpret, I realized that maybe I didn't know these walls at all. Maybe I didn't know this life. Maybe I didn't know my husband. But I was about to find out. Nicole Marie Parker came into this world on May 3rd, 1990, weighing 6 pounds, 11 ounces, with a full head of black hair and her daddy's eyes. She was perfect. She was ours. And from the moment I held her, I knew I would do anything to protect her and give her the life she deserved. Raymond was a good father. I want you to know that. Whatever else happened, whatever else he became, he was a good father to Nicole. He changed diapers and walked the floor with her when she was colicky. He coached her softball team and scared off boys who came sniffing around when she was in high school. He paid for her college, Georgia State, accounting major, working double shifts to make sure she wouldn't have the student loan debt that crushed so many of her friends. "My baby ain't starting life in debt," he'd say. "Not if I can help it." And he did help it. We both did. I worked summers and tutored on weekends. We drove old cars and wore old clothes and never took vacations because every penny went to Nicole's future. She graduated in 2012 with honors, got a job at a mid-sized accounting firm making $48,000 a year, more money than Raymond and I made combined when we first got married. We were so proud. At her graduation, Raymond squeezed my hand and whispered, "We did good, Evelyn. Our baby's gonna have a better life than we did." That was true. She did have a better life, better education, better opportunities, better everything. Except, as it turns out, better judgment. Nicole met Brandon Cole in 2014. He was a client at her firm, owned a small electrical contracting business, needed help with his taxes and bookkeeping. She called me one night giggling like she was 16 instead of 24. "Mama, I met somebody," she said. "Tell me about him," I said, already smiling because my baby sounded happy. "His name's Brandon. He's 28. He's from Chicago originally, moved down here about 4 years ago to start his business. He's smart, Mama, and funny, and he has the most beautiful smile." She brought him to Sunday dinner 2 weeks later. I'll never forget that day. Brandon showed up in slacks and a button-down shirt, carrying flowers for me and a bottle of wine for Raymond. He was handsome, 6 feet 2 inches, athletic build, warm brown skin, a smile that could light up a room. But more than that, he was respectful. He called me ma'am. He shook Raymond's hand and thanked him for having him in our home. He complimented my cooking and asked for seconds. After dinner, Brandon helped me clear the table while Raymond and Nicole sat on the porch. He washed dishes without being asked, and we talked about his business, his dreams, his plans. "Ms. Evelyn," he said, "I want you to know I care about your daughter a lot, and I'm going to treat her right. I promise you that." I believed him. God help me, I believed every word. They dated for 2 years before he proposed. Took her to Stone Mountain, got down on one knee at sunset with Atlanta spread out below them, and asked her to be his wife. She said yes, and I cried happy tears when she called to tell me. They got married in 2016 at Greater Hope Baptist. It was a beautiful wedding, 100 guests. Nicole in a dress we found on sale at David's Bridal, Brandon in a tuxedo he rented. Raymond walked our daughter down the aisle, and when he placed her hand in Brandon's, he said loud enough for the front rows to hear, "You take care of my baby. You hear me? You're part of this family now." Brandon hugged him. "I will, Pops. I promise." Pops. He called Raymond Pops from that day forward, and Raymond loved it. "Finally got the son I always wanted," he'd say, beaming whenever Brandon was around. They moved into a townhouse in Decatur, about 20 minutes from us. Nicole kept working at the firm, making good money. She was up to $68,000 a year by 2018. Brandon's business was doing well, bringing in around $45,000 a year after expenses. They weren't rich, but they were comfortable. For the first few years, everything seemed perfect. They came to Sunday dinner religiously. Brandon would help Raymond with projects around the house. Nicole and I would cook together, talking and laughing the way we always had. We'd sit on the porch after dinner, 4 of us, watching the fireflies and talking about nothing and everything. Those were good times. I was happy. My daughter had a good husband, a good job, a good life. My own marriage felt solid after 30-plus years. Raymond had retired from the auto shop in 2020. His body couldn't take the physical labor anymore, and between his military pension and my teacher's pension, we had enough to live on comfortably. Life was good, but looking back now, I can see the cracks, the little things I dismissed as nothing. About 2 years ago, would have been spring of 2022, things started to shift. Nicole stopped coming to Sunday dinners as often. "Work's crazy, Mama," she'd say, or "Brandon's got a big project this weekend." Once a month became once every 2 months, then once a quarter. When she did come, she seemed distant, distracted. She'd check her phone constantly, step outside to take calls. Her laugh didn't sound as genuine, and when I'd ask if everything was okay, she'd snap at me. "Mama, stop worrying. Everything's fine. You're always worrying about nothing." I told myself she was stressed. Work pressure, marriage adjustments, normal stuff. Then there was Raymond. Around the same time, he started changing too. He joined a gym. At 63 years old, my husband, who'd never worked out a day in his life beyond his physical labor, suddenly wanted to lift weights and run on treadmills. "Doctor says I need to take care of my health," he explained when I asked. That made sense. Raymond had a mild stroke in 2019. Nothing major, but scary enough to make us both think about mortality. So I encouraged the gym. I thought it was good for him. But then he started dyeing his hair, buying new clothes, tighter shirts, designer jeans. He got particular about cologne, about grooming, about how he looked. "You trying to impress somebody?" I asked, half joking. "Just trying to take care of myself, Evelyn." "That a crime?" It wasn't a crime, but it was different. And different made me uneasy. He started locking his phone. We'd never been those kind of people. His phone would sit on the counter, mine would sit next to it, and neither of us had passwords because we had nothing to hide. But suddenly, Raymond had a 6-digit passcode. "Too many scam calls," he said. "Don't want nobody getting into my information." Made sense. I didn't push it. He started going out more. Fishing trips with Marcus, his buddy from the shop, veterans meetings on Tuesday nights, coffee with some old Army friends on Thursday afternoons. I was happy he was socializing. Raymond had been so isolated after retirement, and I worried about his mental health. So when he said he was getting out of the house, I encouraged it. "Good for you, baby," I'd say. "You've been cooped up too long." Meanwhile, Brandon started coming around when I wasn't home. He'd stop by on weekday afternoons, Raymond said, to ask for advice about his business, about marriage, about life. "Boy needs a father figure," Raymond explained. "His own daddy died when he was young. He don't have nobody else to talk to." That made sense too. Brandon had told us early on that he didn't have family. His parents were dead, no siblings, grew up in foster care in Chicago. He'd moved to Atlanta for a fresh start, to build something new. I thought it was sweet that Raymond took him under his wing like that. Thought it showed what a good man my husband was, that he'd invest in our son-in-law that way. 3 months ago, I noticed Raymond had withdrawn $500 from our checking account. Then another $500 the next week. Then another. "Raymond, what's all this cash for?" I asked, looking at the bank statement. He barely glanced up from his newspaper. "Stuff for the house. New tools. You know how it is." I didn't see any new tools, but I didn't push it. We had the money. What was $500 here and there after 38 years of marriage? I trusted him. Just last month, I found something that should have been my wake-up call, but I was too trusting to see it. I was putting away laundry, and I found a box in the back of Raymond's closet. A gift box from Macy's. Inside was a watch. A nice one, Citizen brand. Price tag still on it. $450. There was a card. "To my Raymond, you make me feel alive again. B." My heart dropped. B. Who was B? I stood there holding that watch, and my mind went to all the wrong places. Was Raymond having an affair? Was there another woman? Was B for Barbara, Brenda, Betty? I confronted him that night. "Raymond, I found a watch in your closet with a card. Who's B?" He looked confused for a second, then laughed. "Oh, that's from Brandon. It was for my birthday last month, remember? He gave it to me, but I've been meaning to return it. Too expensive. I can't accept something like that from the boy." "Brandon." Of course, Brandon's name started with B. I felt stupid for even thinking otherwise. Raymond wasn't having an affair. He was just being thoughtful about an expensive gift from our son-in-law. "Why are you keeping it if you're going to return it?" I asked. "Just haven't gotten around to it yet. You know how I am about errands." That was true. Raymond hated returns, hated dealing with stores. It could sit in that closet for months before he'd get around to it. I let it go. But now, standing in my kitchen listening to sounds from upstairs, that watch took on a whole different meaning. B wasn't just for Brandon. B was for Brandon. And that card, "You make me feel alive again," that wasn't the kind of thing you write to your father-in-law. That wasn't the kind of gift you give to someone you just respect and admire. That was the kind of gift you give to someone you love. Oh God, how long had I been blind? How many signs had I missed? How many times had I explained away the obvious because I wouldn't believe that my husband of 38 years could do this to me? Could do this to our daughter? I sat there at that kitchen table, coffee going cold in my cup, and I made myself look at the truth I'd been avoiding for months. The cash withdrawals, the locked phone, the gym, the hair dye, the new clothes, the sudden friendship with Brandon, the afternoons when he was out and Brandon just happened to stop by, Nicole's distance, her stress, her phone calls she had to take in private. Dear Jesus, did Nicole know? The thought hit me like a physical blow. Did my daughter know that her husband was carrying on with her father? No, that couldn't be. Nicole would have told me. Nicole would have come to me, wouldn't she? But even as I thought it, I remembered something from 3 months ago. Nicole had called asking to borrow $3,000, said her car needed emergency repairs. Mama, I hate to ask, but we're stretched thin this month with Brandon's business expenses, and I really need this. I sent the money that day. Didn't even question it. She was my baby, but Brandon drives a truck for work. Why would they have business expenses and need $3,000 for Nicole's car? Unless the money wasn't for a car. Unless Nicole was helping them somehow. Unless she knew. I stood up from that table and my legs almost gave out. I gripped the counter to steady myself, breathing hard, my vision going blurry at the edges. 38 years of marriage, of partnership, of building a life together. 38 years of standing by this man through wars and nightmares and unemployment and health scares. 38 years, and this is what I got. The clock on the wall said 3:47 p.m. Bible study ladies would be wondering why I hadn't answered my phone. I'd silenced it when I heard the music upstairs, some instinct telling me I needed silence to think. In 13 minutes, I was supposed to be home. In 13 minutes, Raymond and Brandon would be expecting me to walk through that door, oblivious and trusting, the way I'd walked through it every day for 38 years. But I wasn't that woman anymore. Something had shifted in those 7 minutes in the hallway. Something had broken. And in its place, something harder and sharper had emerged. I thought about my mama, Beulah Johnson, who cleaned houses but never let anyone make her feel small. I thought about walking into that white school in 1968, past protesters who wanted me dead. I thought about every single time in my 62 years that someone had underestimated me because I was black, because I was a woman, because I was poor, because I was anything other than what they wanted me to be. And I thought about how every single time I proved them wrong. Raymond and Brandon thought they could plan my future, thought they could decide what was best for me, where I should go, how I should live. They thought wrong. I picked up my phone and opened Google. Best divorce lawyer Atlanta. The first result was Catherine Brooks and Associates. I clicked through to her website. Black woman, 48 years old, Georgetown Law School. Specialization, high conflict divorce and asset protection. Her tagline, protecting what's yours. Perfect. I bookmarked the page. Then I went upstairs to my bedroom, quietly, so quietly, and I retrieved that box from Raymond's closet, the watch, the card. I took pictures of both with my phone. Then I went to Raymond's nightstand and looked at the papers he kept in the drawer. Bank statements, credit card bills, his phone bill showing text and call logs. I took pictures of everything. I went to his laptop. Password was still my birthday. The fool hadn't even changed that. And I downloaded our bank statements, investment records, everything I could find. And then I heard footsteps in the hallway. I closed the laptop and slipped out through our bathroom, through the hallway, back downstairs. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might break through my ribs. I made it to the kitchen just as I heard Brandon's voice from the top of the stairs. I should get going before she gets home. Raymond's response? Yeah, same time next week? Can't wait that long, baby. Tomorrow? Tomorrow. I heard kissing sounds. My stomach turned. A minute later, Brandon came down the stairs, grabbed his jacket from the kitchen chair, didn't even notice I'd folded it differently than he'd left it, and headed for the back door. He stopped, turned around, looked right at me, except I wasn't there. I'd stepped into the pantry, door cracked just enough to see out. Brandon left. 5 minutes later, Raymond came downstairs, whistling, like he didn't have a care in the world. He walked right past the pantry, into the kitchen, and started making himself a sandwich. I watched him move around my kitchen, using my dishes, eating my food, in my house, after what he'd just done. And I thought, not anymore. Not my kitchen, not my dishes, not my house, not my husband, not after this. I waited until he went back upstairs, probably to shower, to wash away the evidence. Then I stepped out of the pantry, grabbed my purse, and walked out the front door like I'd just arrived. I came in loud this time. Raymond, I'm home! Be down in a minute, he called from upstairs. I went to the kitchen and started unpacking groceries like nothing had happened. Like my world hadn't just shattered. Like I was still the woman who'd left for Bible study 3 hours ago. But I wasn't. That woman was gone. And the woman who replaced her, she was done playing nice. That night I couldn't sleep. Raymond was snoring beside me. Same snore I'd listened to for 38 years. The one that used to make me smile because it meant he was home safe, alive, next to me where he belonged. Now it just made me angry. I lay there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, watching the shadows from the streetlight move across the plaster like ghosts. My mind kept replaying what I'd heard. The music, the laughter. Nobody's home till 4 o'clock. Brandon's voice saying my name. I don't want Evelyn finding out like this. Finding out what, exactly? I needed to know. Not just suspect, not just fear. I needed proof. At 2:30 in the morning, I slipped out of bed. Raymond didn't stir. He sleeps like the dead once he's out. I went downstairs to the kitchen and opened my laptop. first thing I did was check our bank account. Our joint checking account that we'd had since 1985. The one where both our pensions got deposited. The one we used for everything. I scrolled through the transactions for the past 6 months, and my stomach dropped. $500 cash withdrawal. Then another. Every single week for the past 4 months. Some weeks, 2 withdrawals. I did the math. $16,000. Gone. Just gone. Where? I kept scrolling. Credit card statements. Charges I didn't recognize. Dinner at the Capitol Grill. $287. That fancy steakhouse downtown. Raymond said he was at a veterans meeting that night. Flowers from Bloomingdale Florist. $145. I never got flowers. A hotel charge. The Ritz-Carlton. $342. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely scroll. Then I saw it. A charge from Macy's. $450. The date was March 15th, Raymond's birthday. The watch. Brandon didn't buy that watch. Raymond bought it for himself, or someone bought it for him on his own credit card. But why would the card say, "To my Raymond," if Raymond bought it? Unless he didn't buy it. I opened a new tab and searched for joint bank accounts. Found an article about how to check if your spouse has secret accounts. It told me to check credit reports. I'd never checked our credit reports. Why would I? We had good credit. We paid our bills. We were honest people. Except we weren't. Or at least Raymond wasn't. I went to annualcreditreport.com and entered Raymond's information. His social security number was taped inside our important documents folder. I'd put it there myself years ago. The report loaded. And there it was. A joint checking account with SunTrust Bank. Opened 8 months ago. Co-owner Brandon M. Cole. My husband had a joint bank account with my daughter's husband. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. I gripped the edge of the kitchen table and forced myself to keep looking. The account had over $23,000 in it. $23,000 that Raymond had taken from our joint account. Money from my pension. Money I'd earned teaching children for 37 years and put into an account with Brandon. I wanted to scream. I wanted to run upstairs and wake Raymond up and demand answers. I wanted to throw things and break things and make him hurt the way I was hurting. But I didn't. Instead, I took screenshots. I saved everything to a folder on my laptop titled Recipes. If Raymond ever snooped, he'd think it was just cooking stuff. Then I kept digging. Phone records. I accessed Raymond's phone account online. Again, password was my birthday. The fool hadn't changed a single password. I pulled up the call logs for the past 3 months. Brandon's number showed up 47 times. Calls ranging from 5 minutes to over an hour. Most of them during the day when I was out. But it was the text message log that broke me. I couldn't see the actual messages. The phone company doesn't store those. But I could see the volume. In the past month alone, Raymond and Brandon had exchanged over 300 text messages. 300. My husband texted our son-in-law more than he texted me. More than he texted anyone. I sat there in my dark kitchen at 3 o'clock in the morning, looking at numbers on a screen that proved what I already knew, but didn't want to believe. Raymond was having an affair with Brandon. My husband of 38 years was sleeping with our daughter's husband, and I was the fool who'd been too trusting to see it. I closed the laptop, made myself a cup of tea, chamomile, like it could calm the storm inside me, sat at the table, and cried so quietly that even I could barely hear it. This was the same table where we'd made so many decisions together, where we'd planned Nicole's first birthday party, where we'd filled out college applications, where we'd done our taxes every year, side by side, partners. When had that partnership become a lie? At 5:30, my phone rang. I jumped, nearly dropped my tea. It was Diane Reynolds, my best friend for 40 years. The woman who'd been my maid of honor, who'd held my hand through 3 miscarriages, who knew me better than anyone except maybe my mama. "Girl, you up? She said when I answered. "Yeah, couldn't sleep." "Me neither. Got something on my mind and I can't shake it. Can I come over?" "Now." It's 5:30 in the morning. "I know what time it is, Evelyn. I need to talk to you. In person. It's important." Something in her voice made my blood run cold. "What's wrong? Just let me come over, please." 20 minutes later, Diane was sitting at my kitchen table. She looked tired, worried. She kept twisting her wedding ring around her finger, something she only did when she was nervous. "Di, what's going on?" I asked. She took a deep breath. "Evelyn, I saw something 2 weeks ago, and I've been going back and forth about whether to tell you, but I can't keep it to myself anymore. You're my sister. You need to know." My heart was pounding. "Know what?" "I saw Raymond and Brandon." "Where?" "At the Waffle House on Memorial Drive. It was late, about 10 o'clock at night. I'd just gotten off my shift at the hospital and stopped to get some food, and I saw them sitting in a booth in the back. I waited, couldn't speak. Evelyn!" They were holding hands across the table, and the way they were looking at each other, that wasn't father and son. That was something else. I thought I'd be shocked, thought I'd be surprised, but I wasn't. I was relieved, because now I knew I wasn't crazy. Now I had a witness. "What night was this?" I asked, my voice steady. "March 28th, Thursday." I pulled out my phone, checked my calendar. March 28th. Raymond had said he was at a veterans meeting. "He told me he was at the VA," I said quietly. Diane reached across the table and took my hand. "Honey, I'm so sorry. When I saw them, I thought maybe I was seeing things wrong. But then I saw him lean over and kiss Brandon's hand. And I knew, I didn't know how to tell you. You're telling me now. That's what matters. What are you gonna do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What was I gonna do? I could confront Raymond, scream and cry and demand answers, make him choose between me and Brandon, though I already knew who he'd choose. I could tell Nicole, destroy her marriage the way mine was destroyed. Watch my baby's heart break the way mine was breaking. I could leave, pack a bag and go stay with my sister in Memphis. Start over somewhere new, somewhere without these memories. Or I could do what I'd been trained to do my whole life. I could be strategic. I could be smart. I could gather my evidence, build my case, and make sure that when this was over, I came out on top. "I'm gonna call a lawyer," I said. Diane nodded. "Good. You want me to ask around? I know some people." "I already found one. Catherine Brooks." Diane's eyes widened. "Catherine Brooks? Girl, she's expensive." "I got money. Raymond don't know about it, but I got it." That was true. My sister Eleanor had died 6 years ago from breast cancer, left me everything she had, $340,000. She never married, never had kids. I was all she had. Raymond knew about the inheritance. In fact, he's the one who suggested I put it in a separate retirement account. "For tax purposes," he'd said. "Keep it separate, invest it, let it grow. We don't need it right now, so let it work for us." I'd listened to him. Put it in a Vanguard account in my name only. Never touched it. 6 years of compound interest, and that $340,000 had grown to $485,000. Raymond had no idea how much was in there. Probably thought it was still around $350,000, maybe $400,000 at most. But $485,000? That was mine. All mine. And he had no legal claim to it. Georgia law is clear. Inheritance received during marriage is separate property as long as you keep it separate. Don't commingle it with joint funds. Don't put your spouse's name on it, and it stays yours. I'd followed the rules perfectly. Not because I was planning for divorce, I never thought I'd need to, but because Raymond told me to. The irony was delicious. At 9 a.m. sharp on Monday morning, I called Catherine Brooks and Associates. The receptionist answered, "Brooks Law, how may I help you?" "I need to schedule a consultation with Ms. Brooks. It's regarding a divorce." "Of course, may I have your name?" "Evelyn Parker." "And is this consultation for you or someone else?" "For me." "All right, Mrs. Parker. Ms. Brooks has an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. Does that work for you?" Tomorrow. Less than 24 hours. I could do that. "Yes, that works." "Perfect. The consultation fee is $400 for the first hour. We accept cash, check, or credit card. $400. That was half my monthly grocery budget. But I didn't hesitate. I'll pay cash. When I hung up, I felt something I hadn't felt in days. Hope. That afternoon, while Raymond was out, he'd said he was going to Home Depot, but God knows where he really was. I went through the house like a woman possessed. I found things I'd missed, things I'd deliberately not seen because I didn't want to see them. In Raymond's sock drawer, underneath his underwear, a receipt from K Jewelers, $1,200 for a men's gold chain. Raymond didn't wear jewelry, never had. Who was the chain for? In his car, I used his spare key to unlock it while it was parked in the garage. I found more evidence. A card stuffed in the glove compartment. Happy anniversary, it said. Our first year together. Here's to many more. Love, B. Anniversary. They were celebrating anniversaries. In the center console, a hotel room keycard. The Ritz-Carlton, room 547. No date on it, but it didn't matter. Raymond had been to a hotel with Brandon. That's all I needed to know. I took pictures of everything. Every receipt, every card, every piece of evidence. Uploaded them all to a Google Drive folder that only I could access. Then I did something I'd never done before. I installed a tracking app on Raymond's phone. It was easy. Scary easy. There are apps you can download that let you track someone's location as long as you have access to their phone for 5 minutes. I waited until Raymond was in the shower that evening, grabbed his phone from the nightstand. He'd left it unlocked, the fool. Downloaded the app, hid it in a folder labeled Utilities, where he'd never look, and put the phone back. The whole thing took 3 minutes. Now I could see everywhere Raymond went, and I could see everywhere he said he was going versus where he actually went. Knowledge is power, and I was gathering all the knowledge I could. That night at dinner, I'd made Raymond's favorite, smothered pork chops, because I needed him to think everything was normal. My phone buzzed. It was Nicole. "Hey, baby," I said, stepping out onto the porch to take the call. "Hey, Mama, you got a minute?" "Always got time for you. What's up?" Silence. Then, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." My heart stopped. Did she know? Was she calling to confess? To ask for help? "Okay," I said carefully. "Do you think Daddy's been acting weird lately?" Oh God. She knew, or at least she suspected. "Weird how?" I asked. "I don't know. Just different. More secretive. And he's been spending a lot of time with Brandon." "Baby, Brandon's your husband. Of course your daddy spends time with him." "No, Mama, it's more than that. It's like they're close. Too close. And Brandon's been distant with me. He comes home late. He's always on his phone. And when I ask where he's been, he says he was with Daddy. My daughter, my baby." She knew something was wrong. She just didn't want to name it. "Nicole, are you asking me if I think Daddy and Brandon are involved?" Long pause. Then so quietly I almost didn't hear it. "Yes." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, made a decision. "Baby, I think you need to come over here. Tomorrow, without Brandon. We need to talk." "About what?" "About everything. Can you do that?" "Mama, you're scaring me." "I know, sweetheart, but trust me. Come over tomorrow. 1 o'clock, okay?" "Okay." After I hung up, I stood on that porch for a long time looking at my garden. The roses were blooming, pink and red and yellow, beautiful in the evening light. I'd planted those roses 15 years ago, tended them through droughts and freezes, pruned them and fed them and loved them. They'd survived because I'd taken care of them, because I'd paid attention, because I'd noticed when something was wrong and fixed it before it was too late. I should have been paying that kind of attention to my marriage, but it was too late for that now. The next day, I went to my consultation with Catherine Brooks. Her office was in Buckhead, on the 15th floor of a gleaming glass building. The receptionist offered me water, coffee, tea. I took water. My hands were shaking too much for hot liquids. 10 minutes later, Catherine Brooks herself came out to greet me. She was exactly what I expected. Tall, elegant, dressed in a sharp navy suit that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her hair was natural, cut in a short, stylish afro. She wore minimal jewelry, just a wedding ring and small diamond studs. But it was her eyes that struck me. Sharp, intelligent, the eyes of a woman who didn't miss a thing. "Mrs. Parker," she said, extending her hand. "Catherine Brooks, please come in." Her office was beautiful. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Atlanta. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, law degrees from Georgetown and Emory on the wall. "Thank you for seeing me on such short notice," I said as I sat down. "Of course. Now tell me what brings you here." I'd planned what I was going to say, practiced it in my head on the drive over. But when I opened my mouth, what came out was, "My husband is having an affair with my son-in-law." Catherine's expression didn't change, didn't even flicker. She just nodded and picked up her pen. "How long has this been going on?" "I'm not sure. At least 18 months, maybe longer." "Do you have proof?" I pulled out my phone and opened the folder with all my screenshots. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals totaling $16,000. Credit card charges for hotels and restaurants. A joint bank account he opened with my son-in-law, $23,000 in it. Phone records showing 47 calls and over 300 text messages in the past month. Pictures of gifts, cards, receipts. I showed her everything. Catherine scrolled through the images, her face impassive. When she finished, she looked up at me. "Mrs. Parker, this is one of the most well-documented cases of infidelity I've seen in my 20 years of practice. You've done excellent work here. Thank you. Tell me about your assets. What do you and your husband own?" "We own our house outright. Bought it in 1988 for $67,000, probably worth about $285,000 now. We each have pensions. His is $3,200 a month from the military and his auto shop. Mine is $2,800 a month from teaching. He has a 401k with about $87,000 in it. I have one with about $52,000. We have about $14,000 in our joint savings account, or we did before he started moving money around. Any other assets?" This was it, the ace up my sleeve. "I have a separate retirement account, an inheritance from my sister who died 6 years ago. Raymond knows about it, but he doesn't know how much is in it." "How much?" $485,000. Catherine smiled, actually smiled. "And it's in your name only? He's not a co-owner or beneficiary?" "Just mine. I've never touched it. It's been growing for 6 years. "Mrs. Parker, do you know what the law says about inheritances in Georgia?" I did some research. If I keep it separate, don't mix it with our joint money, it's mine alone. "Exactly right. That $485,000 is your separate property. Your husband has no claim to it whatsoever. None." I felt something loosen in my chest, something that had been tight and painful for days. "So he can't take it?" "He can't take one penny. Now let's talk about what you can expect in this divorce." We talked for 2 hours. Catherine explained everything. How Georgia is an equitable distribution state. How we'd split the marital assets fairly but not necessarily equally. How my inheritance was completely protected. How Raymond's infidelity could impact the settlement. When we finished, Catherine looked at me across her desk. "Mrs. Parker, I'm going to be straight with you. This is going to get ugly. Your husband is going to fight. So is your son-in-law. And your daughter is caught in the middle. Are you prepared for that?" "I've been preparing my whole life for people to underestimate me because I'm black and I'm a woman," I said. "I'm more than prepared." Catherine smiled again. "Then let's take everything he's got." I paid her retainer, $5,000, cash from my secret account, and walked out of that office feeling powerful for the first time in weeks. When I got home, Nicole was already there. Her car was in the driveway, and she was sitting on the porch swing, looking small and scared. "Mama," she said when she saw me, "we need to talk." "I know, baby. Come inside." We sat at the kitchen table. I made sweet tea, the real kind, with sugar while it's still hot, and put out some of the lemon cookies I'd made the day before. Nicole didn't touch the cookies. "Mama, I think Brandon's cheating on me." What makes you think that? Everything. He's never home. He's always secretive. He comes home smelling like cologne that isn't his, and he's been pulling away from me. We haven't been intimate in 4 months. 4 months. Right around when that joint bank account was opened. Have you asked him about it? I tried. He says I'm being paranoid. Says I'm imagining things. But Mama, I'm not crazy. I know my own husband. No, baby, you're not crazy. Then what's going on? I took a deep breath. This was it. The moment where I destroyed my daughter's world to save her from living in a lie. Nicole, I need to tell you something, and it's going to hurt, but you need to know. Her eyes filled with tears. Is Daddy dying? Does he have cancer or something? No, sweetheart. Daddy's not dying, but your marriage might be. I told her everything. The sounds I'd heard from the bedroom, the bank account, the phone records, the hotel receipts, Diane seeing them at the Waffle House, the anniversary card. With every word, Nicole's face got paler. By the time I finished, she was shaking. No, she whispered. No, that's not. Brandon wouldn't. Daddy wouldn't. Baby, no! She stood up so fast, her chair fell backward. You're lying. You're making this up because you're jealous that Daddy has friends, that he's not just sitting at home with you all the time. Nicole, Brandon loves me. He married me, not Daddy. Me. Sweetheart, I know this is hard. Hard? You're telling me my husband is sleeping with my father, and you think it's hard? She was screaming now, crying, falling apart. I stood up and tried to hold her, but she pushed me away. Don't touch me. If this is true, if any of this is true, why didn't you tell me sooner? Why did you let me stay married to him? I just found out? You've known for days. You've been investigating, taking pictures, hiring lawyers, and you didn't think to tell me? She was right. I should have told her immediately. But I'd been trying to protect her, trying to make sure I had all the facts before I broke her heart. Nicole, I'm sorry. I was trying to what? Control everything like you always do, make all the decisions. You never trusted me to handle my own life. That's not fair. Fair? You want to talk about fair? My husband is sleeping with my father, and you're talking about fair? The back door opened. Raymond walked in, home from wherever he'd actually been. He took one look at Nicole's tear-stained face and my expression and knew immediately that something was wrong. What's going on? He asked. Nicole turned to him. Tell me the truth, Daddy. Are you sleeping with Brandon? Raymond's face went white. What, Nicole, are you sleeping with my husband? Yes or no? Silence. And in that silence, my daughter got her answer. She let out a sound I'd never heard before. Not quite a scream, not quite a sob. Something animal and broken. How could you? She whispered. How could you do this to Mama? To me? Raymond tried to step toward her. Baby girl, let me explain. Don't call me that. Don't you dare call me that. Nicole, please. How long? How long what? How long have you been fucking my husband? I'd never heard my daughter use that word before. Never heard that kind of rage in her voice. Raymond's shoulders slumped. 18 months. Nicole staggered backward like she'd been hit. I caught her before she fell. 18 months, she repeated. 18 months. Our anniversary was last month. You wished me happy anniversary. You gave me flowers. You told me you loved me. I do love you. Shut up, Nicole screamed. Don't you dare say you love me. If you loved me, you wouldn't have destroyed my marriage. If you loved me, you wouldn't have broken Mama's heart. If you loved me, you would have been my father, not my competition. The front door opened again. Brandon walked in. He froze when he saw all of us. Nicole crying, me holding her, Raymond looking like he wanted the floor to swallow him. What's going on? Brandon asked, though his face said he already knew. Nicole pulled away from me and walked toward her husband. Did you ever love me? She asked quietly. Brandon couldn't meet her eyes. Nicole, did you ever love me, or was I just a way to get close to him? It's not like that. Then what is it like, Brandon? Explain it to me. Explain how you married me while you were planning to fuck my father. We didn't plan it? Oh, so it just happened? You just accidentally fell into bed together? Brandon finally looked at her. I love him, Nicole. I didn't mean to. I didn't want to. But I do. Those words hung in the air like poison. Nicole turned to me. Her face was empty, hollow. You were right, Mama, she said, about everything. You're always right. Then she walked out of the house, got in her car, and drove away. I stood in my kitchen looking at my husband and my son-in-law, these two men who had destroyed everything I'd built. Get out, I said quietly. Evelyn, Raymond started. Get out of my house. This is my house too. No, this is the house I made a home. You just lived in it. Now get out before I call the police and tell them you stole $16,000 from our joint account to fund your affair. Brandon grabbed Raymond's arm. Come on, let's go. They left, and I was alone. I don't remember much about the rest of that day. I know I called Diane and she came over. I know she sat with me while I cried, really cried, for the first time since this whole thing started. I know she made me eat something, though I don't remember what. I know that at some point she left and I was alone in my house. My empty house that suddenly felt too big and too quiet. I sat on the couch until the sun went down. Didn't turn on the lights. Just sat in the dark, watching shadows creep across the walls. At some point, maybe 10 p.m., maybe midnight, I don't know, I got up and started walking through the house. Every room held memories. The living room where Nicole took her first steps, Raymond and I cheering her on. The kitchen where we'd had 1,000 meals together, 1,000 conversations. The bedroom where we'd made love, made plans, made a life. All of it felt contaminated now, tainted, like everything good had been a lie and I was just too stupid to see it. I ended up in Nicole's old room. We'd kept it mostly the same after she moved out. Her twin bed with the purple comforter, her bookshelf full of young adult novels, her desk where she'd done homework for 12 years. There was a photo on the dresser, Nicole's high school graduation. She was in the middle, wearing her cap and gown. Raymond and I stood on either side of her, our arms around her shoulders, all of us grinning at the camera. We looked happy. We looked like a family. Was it all fake? Had Raymond been pretending even then? I sat on Nicole's bed and let myself think about all the times I'd sacrificed for this family. 1986. I was 3 months from graduating Spelman. I had a 3.8 GPA. I had a future. But Raymond came home from Vietnam broken, and somebody had to take care of him. So I dropped out, got 2 jobs, put my dreams on hold. I told myself it was temporary, told myself I'd go back to school later. It took me 6 years to get my degree. 1992, Raymond lost his job for the second time. He was drinking heavy then, couldn't keep himself together. We were 2 months behind on the mortgage. My mama offered to lend us money, but only if I left him. That man's gonna drag you down, Evelyn, she said. You got a baby to think about. But I'd made vows, for better or worse. So I took the money and I stayed, and I worked myself half to death to keep our house. 2003, Raymond fell off a ladder at work, broke his leg in 3 places. Couldn't work for 8 months. I picked up tutoring jobs, taught summer school, worked every evening and weekend I could. Never complained, never asked for help, just did what needed to be done. 2014, Raymond had his first stroke, minor but scary. Doctor said he needed to change his lifestyle, reduce stress, maybe retire early. So I retired early too. Took a reduced pension, $800 less per month for the rest of my life, so I could be home to take care of him. Every single time, I chose him, chose us, chose this family. And what did I get for it? I got betrayed. I got lied to. I got replaced by a man half my age who was married to my daughter. I sat there on that bed and felt something break inside me. Not my heart. That had been breaking in pieces for days. Something deeper. some fundamental belief about the world and how it worked. I'd believed that if you loved someone, if you sacrificed for them, if you stood by them through everything, they would do the same for you. I'd believed that marriage meant something, that vows meant something, that 38 years of partnership counted for something. I'd been wrong. At some point, 3 a.m. maybe, I went to my bedroom and opened the drawer in my nightstand, pulled out the old photo album I kept there, pictures of me and Raymond when we were young, our wedding day, him in his suit from Goodwill, me in my mama's altered dress. We looked so happy, so hopeful. Pictures of us with baby Nicole, Raymond holding her in the hospital, tears streaming down his face, me nursing her in the rocking chair, the three of us on her first Christmas. Pictures from vacations we couldn't afford but took anyway. From birthdays and anniversaries and ordinary Sundays. A whole life in photographs. Had any of it been real? Or had I been living in a fantasy this whole time, believing in a love that only existed in my head? I closed the album and put it back in the drawer. Then I opened the other drawer, the one where I kept my mama's Bible. Beulah Johnson had carried that Bible every day of her adult life, through Jim Crow and civil rights marches and poverty and pain. It was worn soft from use, pages marked with her handwritten notes in the margins. I opened it randomly, and my eyes fell on Proverbs 31:25. She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. Strength and dignity. I thought about my mama, about how she'd worked in those white women's houses, scrubbing their floors and washing their clothes, and never once let them make her feel small. About how she'd walked me to that white school past protesters who wanted us dead, and never showed 1 ounce of fear. About how she'd survived everything the world threw at her and still managed to raise 2 daughters who knew their worth. My mama didn't give up, ever, and I was Beulah Johnson's daughter. I closed the Bible and stood up, walked to the window and looked out at my garden, just visible in the pre-dawn light. Those roses I'd planted 15 years ago were blooming, despite drought, despite freeze, despite neglect when I was too busy or too tired to tend them properly. They survived because they were strong, because they had deep roots. I had deep roots too, roots that went back generations. Roots in women who survived slavery and segregation and every form of oppression this country could throw at them. I was not going to let Raymond Parker and Brandon Cole destroy me. I was not going to disappear quietly into some nursing home while they lived happily ever after on my money. I was not going to let my daughter think this was somehow normal or acceptable. No, I was going to fight. The sun was starting to rise. Thursday morning. 5 days since I'd heard those sounds from my bedroom. 5 days since my old life ended. Time to start my new one. I picked up my phone and called Catherine Brooks' emergency line. She answered on the 3rd ring, voice alert despite the early hour. Mrs. Parker, everything all right? File the papers, I said. Today. I want him served by tomorrow. A pause. Then, you're sure? I've never been more sure of anything in my life. All right then. Let's destroy him. I hung up and went downstairs to make coffee. Today I was going to start taking back my life. And Raymond Parker was about to learn what happens when you underestimate a black woman from the South who's finally decided she's had enough. Catherine Brooks didn't waste time. By noon on Friday, the divorce papers were ready. By 3 p.m., a process server was waiting outside the Veterans Coffee Shop where Raymond met his buddies every Friday afternoon. I know because I was watching the tracker on his phone. At 3:17 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Catherine. Paper served. He knows. I was sitting in my kitchen when it happened, the same kitchen where I'd made that decision 5 days ago. I'd made myself a sandwich I couldn't eat and was staring at my garden through the window, thinking about everything and nothing. My phone rang 30 seconds later. Raymond. I didn't answer. He called again and again. 5 times in 10 minutes. Then the text started. Evelyn, please pick up. We need to talk about this. You can't just throw away 38 years. Answer the phone. I turned my phone face down and took a sip of my sweet tea. Let him sweat. An hour later, there was pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole. Raymond, looking frantic and furious. "Evelyn, open this door. We need to talk." I didn't open it. "I know you're in there. Your car's in the driveway." I sat back down at my kitchen table and opened my laptop. Started going through the financial documents Catherine had requested. Raymond pounded for another 10 minutes before he finally gave up and left. Good. That weekend, I met with Catherine for 4 hours. We went through everything, every asset, every account, every piece of property we own together. "The house is worth approximately $285,000, Catherine said, making notes on her legal pad. Purchased in 1988 for $67,000, paid off in 2014. That's marital property, so we'll need to determine how to divide it." "I want the house," I said. "That may be difficult. It's the largest asset you have. The court might order you to buy him out of his share. That would be about $142,000. "I can do that." Catherine looked up. "You can?" "I have the money." She smiled. "Right, your inheritance. Mrs. Parker, I think it's time we discuss that account in detail." I pulled out the statements I'd printed from my Vanguard account. 6 years of growth, carefully managed, never touched. Starting balance in 2018, $340,000. Current balance, $485,000. Catherine reviewed the documents carefully. "This is perfect. You kept it completely separate. No commingling of funds whatsoever. The original deposit was from your sister's estate, correct?" "Yes. Eleanor died in March 2018. Left me everything." "And you never added any marital funds to this account? Never used it for household expenses?" "Never. Raymond told me to keep it separate for tax purposes. I just let it sit and grow." "Smart man," Catherine said dryly. "He protected your assets without realizing it. This $485,000 is yours alone. He gets nothing from it." "Can I use it to buy him out of the house?" "Absolutely. In fact, I recommend it. We offer him $142,000 for his share of the house, half the equity. That keeps you in your home and gives him cash to start over." "And the rest of the assets?" "His 401k is worth $87,000. Yours is worth $52,000. Georgia law requires equitable distribution, so we'll likely need to split the difference there. You'd each end up with about $69,500 in retirement funds. The joint savings account has $14,000, or it did before he started draining it. We'll need full accounting of where that money went." I showed her the evidence I'd gathered. The joint account with Brandon, the cash withdrawals, the hotel receipts. "He took $23,000 of marital funds and put it in an account with his partner," Catherine said. "That's dissipation of marital assets. We can argue he should reimburse you for half of that, $11,500. The numbers were adding up in my favor, but I wanted more than money." "What about his pension?" I asked. "Military pensions are divisible in divorce. You'd be entitled to a portion based on the length of the marriage. You were married 38 years, and he served... how long? 4 years, 1969 to 1973. Then his military pension probably isn't significant. Most of his retirement income comes from his auto shop pension, which was earned during the marriage. You could argue for a portion of that as well, but it might not be worth the fight. Let me ask you something, Mrs. Parker. What do you really want from this divorce?" I thought about that. What did I want? I wanted my house, the home I'd made, the garden I'd planted, the space I'd filled with love for 38 years. I wanted my financial security, enough money to live comfortably without Raymond, without anyone. I wanted Raymond to understand what he'd lost, and I wanted my daughter back. "I want the house," I said. "I want my retirement account protected. I want him to repay what he stole, and I want everyone to know exactly why this marriage ended." Catherine's smile was sharp as a knife. "Then let's make sure we get all of that." Over the next week, Catherine's team went to work. They subpoenaed bank records, phone records, credit card statements. They hired a forensic accountant to trace every penny Raymond had moved around, and they hired a private investigator. His name was Marcus Webb, no relation to Raymond's friend Marcus. He was a former detective, now working private cases, specialized in infidelity and asset searches. "Mrs. Parker," he said when we met, "I'm going to be very thorough. I'll follow your husband, document his movements, photograph anyone he meets with. I'll also run a complete background check on Brandon Cole. Sometimes people aren't who they say they are." "Do whatever you need to do," I said. A week later, Marcus called me. "Mrs. Parker, we need to meet. I found something." We met at a coffee shop in Buckhead. Marcus slid a folder across the table. "Brandon Cole isn't his real name," Marcus said. My blood went cold. "What?" "His birth name is Brandon Michaels. He legally changed it in 2012 after serving 3 years in Joliet Correctional Center in Illinois." "Prison? For what?" "Fraud and embezzlement. He was working as a bookkeeper for a small construction company in Chicago. Over the course of 2 years, he stole approximately $180,000 from them. When they caught him, he'd already spent most of it. He served 3 years, got out on parole in 2012, changed his name, and moved to Georgia." I couldn't breathe. "Does Nicole know?" "I doubt it. He would have had to disclose his criminal record on the marriage license application. He likely lied." "What about his parents? He said they were dead." "His mother, Patricia Michaels, is alive and well in Chicago. His father left when Brandon was young, whereabouts unknown. His mother cut contact with him after his arrest, said he'd stolen from her too." Everything Brandon had told us was a lie. Everything. "There's more," Marcus said. "I followed your husband and Mr. Cole, or Mr. Michaels, I should say. They met at a business loan office last week. They're trying to get financing for an auto repair shop. They've applied for a $180,000 small business loan, the same amount Brandon had stolen in Illinois. That couldn't be coincidence." "What's their plan?" I asked. "Based on the loan application I was able to obtain, don't ask how, they're planning to use money from the sale of your marital home as the down payment. They estimated they could get about $140,000 from your husband's share. Combined with what they've saved in that joint account, they'd have enough for the 20% down payment the SBA requires. They were planning my future, selling my house, using my money to start their new life together. They filed the loan application before the divorce papers were served," Marcus continued. "Your husband was already planning to leave you. This wasn't a sudden thing, Mrs. Parker. This was calculated." I sat there in that coffee shop, holding that folder full of evidence of Brandon's crimes, and I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. They thought they were so smart, thought they'd planned everything perfectly. They had no idea who they were dealing with. Catherine filed an emergency motion to freeze all marital assets. Within 48 hours, Raymond couldn't touch our joint accounts, couldn't take out loans against the house, couldn't do anything without court approval. I imagine the look on his face when he tried to withdraw money and couldn't. When he called the bank and they told him the accounts were frozen pending divorce proceedings. That same day I called Nicole. She'd been staying with her friend Tamika since the confrontation. Hadn't answered any of my calls for a week, but this time she picked up. "Mama?" Her voice was small, broken. "Baby, I need to see you. There's something you need to know about Brandon." "I don't want to know anything about him. I don't want to think about him." "Nicole, this is important. It's about his past, his real past." Silence. Then, "What do you mean, his real past? Come over, please. I'll explain everything." An hour later, Nicole was sitting at my kitchen table. She looked terrible, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, wearing sweatpants and one of my old Spellman t-shirts. I poured her a glass of sweet tea and sat down across from her. "Sweetie, Brandon lied to you about everything. I know he lied about Daddy. No, I mean about his whole life. His name, his family, his past." I slid Marcus's folder across the table. Nicole opened it and started reading. I watched her face go from confusion to shock to something like horror. "He's a felon?" she whispered. "Yes." "He stole money from his job?" "Yes." "His mother's alive?" "Yes." He changed his name? Yes. Nicole looked up at me with tears streaming down her face. I married a criminal. A liar. And I didn't even know his real name? Baby, you couldn't have known. He hid it well. I'm a CPA, Mama. I do background checks for a living. How did I not catch this? Because you loved him. And when you love someone, you want to believe them. She put her head down on the table and sobbed. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. I came around and held her. Let her cry it out. Stroked her hair the way I used to when she was little and had nightmares. I'm so stupid, she cried. So stupid. You're not stupid. You're hurt. There's a difference. After a while, she calmed down enough to sit up. What do I do, Mama? You file for divorce. Today. And you press charges for fraud. He lied on your marriage license application. Will that work? Catherine says it will. The marriage might even be voidable, meaning it was never legally valid in the first place. Nicole wiped her eyes. I want him gone. I want him out of my life completely. Then let's make that happen. 2 days later, Brandon was served with divorce papers and a fraud complaint with the district attorney's office, and a notice that there was a warrant out for him in Illinois for violating his parole. He was supposed to stay in state, but he'd moved to Georgia without permission. Brandon Cole, or Brandon Michaels, or whoever he really was, had bigger problems than losing his marriage now. He had the law after him. Raymond tried to call me 17 times that day, sent texts begging me to drop the charges against Brandon. He's a good person who made mistakes. You're destroying his life. Please, Evelyn, have some mercy. I blocked his number. The final confrontation came 2 weeks after I'd filed for divorce. Catherine set up a settlement conference, a meeting where both sides try to negotiate terms before going to trial. It was scheduled for a Thursday afternoon at Catherine's office. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing my best church suit, navy blue with gold buttons, the one I wore when I received my Teacher of the Year award in 2015. I wanted to look powerful, in control. Raymond showed up with his lawyer, a middle-aged white man named Paul Henderson, who looked uncomfortable the moment he saw Catherine. Brandon was there too, with a public defender who looked like he'd just graduated law school yesterday. Nicole came with me. She sat next to me at the conference table, her hand in mine, both of us presenting a united front. Catherine opened the meeting. Gentlemen, let's be very clear about what's happening here. My client has documented evidence of a long-term affair between Mr. Raymond Parker and Mr. Brandon Cole, or should I say, Mr. Brandon Michaels. She has evidence of dissipation of marital assets totaling over $20,000. She has evidence of fraud, deception, and betrayal spanning at least 18 months. Paul Henderson tried to interrupt. Ms. Brooks, my client, I'm not finished, Catherine said, her voice like ice. Your client took money from a joint account, money that belonged equally to my client, and used it to fund his affair. He opened a secret bank account with his lover. He made plans to sell the marital home and use the proceeds to start a business with that same lover, all while my client believed she was in a loving, committed marriage. She slid a stack of documents across the table. Here's what we're offering. Mrs. Parker keeps the house. She'll buy out Mr. Parker's share for $142,000, paid from her separate property inheritance. Mr. Parker will reimburse Mrs. Parker for half of the $23,000 he placed in the joint account with Mr. Cole. That's $11,500. Retirement accounts will be split equitably, each party receiving approximately $69,500. Mr. Parker will receive no spousal support, no alimony, nothing. Raymond's face went red. That's everything. You're taking everything. No, I said quietly. You gave everything away when you decided to sleep with my daughter's husband. Evelyn, please, don't. I held up my hand. Don't say my name. Don't beg. Don't pretend you care now. Brandon spoke for the first time. Ms. Evelyn, I know you're angry. Angry? Nicole cut him off. You think she's angry? You destroyed our family. You lied about who you are. You used me to get to my father, and you think angry covers it? Nicole, I never meant... Save it. I already filed for divorce. And guess what? The DA is very interested in how you lied on our marriage license, and how you violated your parole by leaving Illinois, and how you've been planning to commit loan fraud with my father. Brandon's public defender whispered something to him urgently. Furthermore, Catherine continued, if Mr. Parker doesn't accept this settlement, we will proceed to trial. And in trial, all of this becomes public record. Every detail of the affair, every text message, every hotel receipt, every lie. The church will know. The community will know. Everyone will know exactly who Raymond Parker is and what he did. Raymond looked like he might be sick. Paul Henderson cleared his throat. Ms. Brooks, this is extremely aggressive. Mr. Henderson, your client committed adultery and stole marital assets. In Georgia, that gives us grounds for fault-based divorce. My client is being generous by offering any settlement at all. She could ask for much more. There's nothing more to take. And that's when I played my final card. I reached into my purse and pulled out my Vanguard statements, placed them on the table in front of Raymond. Actually, I said, there is. Raymond picked up the papers. His eyes widened as he read the balance. $485,000, I said calmly. From Eleanor's estate. Money I invested 6 years ago in an account that's in my name only. Money you told me to keep separate. His face went white. You have $500,000? Yes. And you never told me? You told me to keep it separate. I did. And because I did, it's mine. All mine. You don't get 1 penny of it. I could see him calculating, see him realizing what he'd lost. He'd thrown away a wife who had nearly $500,000 for a con man, for a criminal who would probably be back in prison within a year. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to sign these papers. You're going to take your $142,000 and your half of the retirement accounts. You're going to leave my house, and you're going to live with the choices you made. Evelyn, do you know what I sacrificed for you? I dropped out of college 3 months before graduation. I worked 2 jobs while you recovered from Vietnam. I stayed when you were drinking yourself to death. I took care of you through unemployment and injuries and strokes. I gave you 38 years of my life. My voice was shaking now, but I kept going. And you repaid me by sleeping with my son-in-law, by stealing my money, by planning to warehouse me in a nursing home so you could play house with a man who lied about his entire identity. I stood up. But you forgot something, Raymond. You forgot who I am. I'm Beulah Johnson's daughter. I'm the little girl who integrated that white school. I'm the woman who taught 3rd grade for 37 years and changed hundreds of lives. I'm the one who survived everything this world threw at me and came out stronger. I leaned forward, hands on the table. You picked the wrong woman to underestimate. Silence filled the room. Finally, Paul Henderson spoke. Mr. Parker, I recommend you take this deal. Raymond looked at Brandon. Brandon looked at the floor. Fine, Raymond whispered. I'll sign. The actual signing happened a week later. Catherine had the final divorce decree drawn up. Everything spelled out in legal language. Raymond would get $142,000 for his share of the house, paid within 30 days. He would repay me $11,500 for the money he dissipated. We would each keep our own pensions. Retirement accounts would be split 50-50, and I would keep everything else. My inheritance, my house, my dignity. Raymond signed without saying a word. His hands were shaking. When it was done, he looked at me one last time. Evelyn, I know you won't believe this, but I did love you. For a long time I did. I believe you, I said. But love isn't enough when you don't have respect, and you stopped respecting me a long time ago. When? When you decided I was someone to manage instead of someone to cherish. When you started making plans for my future without asking me what I wanted. When you chose him over our family. Raymond stood up. Where am I supposed to go? That's not my problem anymore. He walked out of Catherine's office, and I watched him go. Watched 38 years walk out the door. And I didn't cry. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my porch swing on a Sunday morning in early fall. The air is crisp. The sky is that perfect shade of blue you only get in Georgia autumn, and my roses are blooming one last time before winter. I sold Raymond out his share of the house using my inheritance, just like Catherine planned. Paid him $142,000. He moved to Tennessee to live with his brother. Last I heard, he's working part-time at an AutoZone and living in a one-bedroom apartment. Brandon, or Brandon Michaels I should say, is back in Illinois, serving time for parole violation. Nicole's divorce was finalized and the marriage was declared legally void due to his fraud. She got her maiden name back, got her life back. The house is mine now, completely, totally mine. I had the locks changed the day the divorce was final. Painted the bedroom a soft lavender, a color Raymond always hated. Turned his man cave into a reading room with built-in bookshelves and a comfortable chair by the window. The garden is thriving. I planted new roses this spring, coral-colored ones that Eleanor would have loved. Every morning I have my coffee out here and watch the sun rise over my flowers. I'm not rich, but I'm comfortable. My pension is $2,800 a month. My inheritance is still invested, still growing, now worth about $510,000. I take out a little each year to supplement my pension, but mostly I let it sit. Security for my future. Security no one can take from me. Nicole and I are rebuilding our relationship. It's slow. There's still hurt there. Still questions about why she didn't tell me sooner about her suspicions, why she went along with the nursing home idea. But we're working on it. She comes for Sunday dinner now, just the two of us. We cook together, eat together, talk about everything and nothing. She's in therapy, processing the trauma of what happened. So am I. Last month, she told me she started dating someone new, a woman this time, an attorney she met through work. "I think I'm done with men for a while, Mama," she said. I just laughed and told her to bring her to Sunday dinner when she's ready. The church community rallied around me once the truth came out. Pastor Williams gave a sermon about forgiveness and moving forward, but also about accountability and not enabling sin. Sister Margaret organized a prayer circle for me every Wednesday. People I barely knew brought me casseroles and pound cakes, offered to help with yard work, sat with me when the loneliness got too heavy. Diane comes over twice a week. We drink tea, watch our shows, gossip about church folk. She keeps trying to set me up with her cousin Harold, a widower who moved to Atlanta last year. "Dee, I'm 63 years old," I told her. "I'm done with men." "Girl, you're not dead. Harold's a good man, retired postal worker, has his own house, makes a mean peach cobbler. Maybe someday, but not yet. For now, I'm learning to be alone without being lonely. Learning to be Evelyn Parker again. No, Evelyn Johnson. I went back to my maiden name. Felt right somehow. I started volunteering at Washington Elementary, my old school, tutoring kids who are struggling with reading. Seeing the light come on in their eyes when they finally understand, that never gets old. I joined a book club with some other retired teachers. We meet monthly, drink wine, discuss literature and life. These women get it. They understand what it means to rebuild yourself at 60 plus. I took a painting class at the community center. Turns out, I'm terrible at it. But I don't care. It's fun. It's mine. 3 weeks ago, I had what I call my moment of truth. I was sitting on this same porch swing, drinking my morning coffee, when I realized something. I was happy. Not happy in spite of everything that happened. Not happy because I'd moved on or gotten over it. Happy because I'd chosen myself. Because I'd fought for myself. Because I'd refused to disappear. The pain is still there. Probably always will be. 38 years don't just evaporate. I still have moments where I cry, where I rage, where I wonder what I could have done differently. But mostly I have moments like this. Peaceful moments, powerful moments. Moments where I look at my garden, my house, my life, and think, this is mine. I built this. I protected this. I earned this. Nicole called yesterday. "Mama, I've been thinking about Grandma Beulah, about how strong she was, how she never let anyone break her." "That's true," I said. "I want to be like that, like her, like you." My heart swelled. Baby, you already are. You walked away from a man who lied to you. You started over. You're building a new life. That's strength. I learned it from watching you, she said softly. The way you handled everything with Daddy and Brandon. The way you didn't just survive. You won. You taught me that we don't have to accept less than we deserve. After we hung up, I sat with those words for a long time. I won. Did I? I lost my husband, damaged my relationship with my daughter, had my life turned upside down. But I also gained something. Myself. The Evelyn who dropped out of college to take care of Raymond wouldn't have fought back. She would have accepted the nursing home plan, convinced herself it was for the best, faded quietly into the background of other people's lives. But the Evelyn sitting on this porch swing, she knows her worth. She knows her power. She knows that she deserves better than crumbs from people who should have been giving her the whole feast. Am I lonely sometimes? Yes. Do I miss having a partner? Sometimes. Do I regret fighting for myself? Not for 1 second. If you've made it this far in my story, thank you. I know it's not pretty. I know it's not the fairy tale we all wish for, but it's real, and maybe somebody out there needed to hear it. If you're going through something similar, if someone you love is trying to make you feel small, trying to convince you that you're the problem, trying to put you somewhere you don't belong, listen to me. You are not too old to start over. You are not too tired to fight back. You are not obligated to sacrifice yourself for people who won't sacrifice for you. My mama survived Jim Crow. My grandmama survived worse. I survived a cheating husband, a lying son-in-law, and the betrayal of people I trusted most. If we can survive all that, we can survive anything. They tried to write my ending for me, tried to put me in a box, literally, and decide my future without my input, tried to make me disappear so they could have the life they wanted. But I took that pen right out of their hands and wrote my own story. Is it lonely sometimes? Yes, but lonely is better than betrayed. Lonely is better than diminished. Lonely is better than living a lie. To all my sisters out there, especially my black sisters who know what it means to be underestimated, overlooked, pushed aside, don't let nobody make you disappear. Not your husband, not your children, not nobody. You matter. Your life matters. Your happiness matters. And if the people around you can't see that, then they don't deserve to be in your story. I'm Evelyn Marie Johnson. I'm 63 years old. I taught 3rd grade for 37 years. I integrated a white school when I was 6. I survived poverty, racism, betrayal, and heartbreak. And I'm still here, still standing, still thriving. Raymond wanted to put me in a nursing home. Brandon wanted to steal my money. They both wanted me out of the way. Instead, I put them in their place. And honey, I ain't going nowhere. This is my house, my garden, my life, my story, and it's just getting started.